Anything meaningful in your life will be uncomfortable to get. If you live for comfort, you just have to be comfortable all the time. If you just have to be entertained all the time, then you'll have no purpose in your life. No meaningful thing that you're going after. And you'll die in the wilderness. You'll never get to your promise. God has promises for us, but sometimes we're so focused on our comforts that we can't pursue our promises. And we lose our promises. So anyway, we've been talking about our grumbling and complaining. We actually talked about the very first lesson. I want to kind of recap this. The very first lesson we talked about that there's a time and place for everything, right? So there's a time to cry. And I'm not talking about crying when you're emotional. I'm talking about whining and complaining, okay? So when we say crybabies, for the sake of the purpose of this teaching, crybabies is not, obviously, it's a fun name. I'm sorry if anyone online is getting their feelings hurt by the name, but I think I'm going to keep crybabies. This is a great, so maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so there's obviously a time to complain, okay? There's a problem, though. I'm going to teach you the problems with complaining, okay? If your leadership doesn't want to hear your complaints, then that means that your leadership isn't very loving, okay? The complaining that we have, I'm not saying that they got to listen to you being immature all the time. We're just talking about a complaint, you know? Hey, man, you know, we've been at this place for a month and we don't have any hot water. You think we could go ahead and get some hot water, right? Well, that's a valid complaint if you live in America, because everywhere else in the world they don't have hot water. It's a commodity, but anyway, same thing with AC. But but for real, like there's times where there's valid complaints. Hey, man, we don't have enough food, even though you've been buying a bunch of junk food. That's not a real complaint either. No, I mean, if you do what? There's one. Oh gosh. No, but I get there can be some valid complaints. And the thing is, if you don't feel safe to talk about the things that you're concerned about, then problems don't really get solved. So if you have something to bring to leadership, you know, you may find that they might tell you, hey, this is just the way it is for now. You have to get over it. You know, and there's going to be one of those suck it up, buttercup talks. But then there's sometimes literally an issue. You know what I mean? I had one guy, we didn't have any water here. And, you know, we didn't have any water here for months. And we just did it Filipino style, because I went to the Philippines on several mission trips. We went and got a big giant trash can full of water. We couldn't afford to buy water over here, so we'd go to my house and fill up water at my house and get ladles and stuff and dump that giant trash can over here and take buckets of water into the bathroom, and that's how we flushed the toilet. You know, they didn't live here. Okay, the guys didn't live here. But even, you know, like, I remember being in these other countries, and that's how they did things. They didn't have running water, you know. So, I mean, there's certain things in our life that we just really take for granted. You know what I mean? But I remember one of the guys was like, man, it's kind of embarrassing. One of the employees that came and goes, man, it's kind of embarrassing to go out there and pee by the tree, and, you know, I want to pee inside if I can. Which I was kind of surprised by his, he'd been to the Mexico on several mission trips with me, so I was kind of surprised that he was feeling the same way. But still, he told me that, and I thought, you know what, he's not really talking on his behalf, because I don't think that he's somebody who would really complain about this. He heard someone else's complaint, probably, and then mentioned it to me. You know what I mean? So there's a balance of being thankful for what you have, right? And not being afraid to express a concern. You know what I'm saying? So we need to be able to express our concerns. You know what I mean? Otherwise, how can leadership even know that there's an issue? All right, so anyway, there's a time to complain, and then there's a time to not complain. And we read up here in the scripture that it comes from bitterness of heart. Job 7:11. Therefore I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Right? So complaining is rooted in bitterness. And bitterness can be a very bad thing in your life. Okay? Bitterness is resentment. Also, there is a difference between grumbling and complaining and bringing up a concern, or even a valid concern. You can humbly bring up a valid concern and say, hey, look, maybe I'm overthinking this, but this is kind of bothering me, and what do you think? Do you think this can change, or is this something we just need to deal with? See what I'm saying? And honestly, as men, especially as men, we just sometimes have to get over stuff. You know what I mean? There's a reason why men go to battle. There's a reason why men become firefighters. There's a reason why men take the hard jobs, the uncomfortable jobs. They take the jobs that are life-threatening. You know, you ever watch those shows when they're catching Deadliest Catch, you know? So there's something in men, and if it's not cultivated, then they'll just become very wimpy, you know? But if we say, look, we're just going to have to rough it through this one, you know what I mean? It makes us push through. And that's really kind of what makes men who they are. You know?
I've always heard God will meet your needs, not your greeds. So when you define what you really need, like the basics,
yeah,
then you can get over your greeds.
Yeah. I mean, I could complain to my wife and say, man, I can't believe we don't have any sodas in the house. Do I need sodas? You know what I mean? It's like, there. Was that another one? Yeah.
Sugar for tea.
Sugar for tea, right? I mean, think about this for a minute. Think about these things that we really just get for comfort, right? Yeah. But they're not there for our needs, you know? And I remember telling my kids, I got to tell my kids no on some things, you know what I mean? No, we're not going to do that. Why? Well, because I think you're just being a little too fleshy nowadays. It's time to go ahead and not be so fleshy, right? So you're going to have to sacrifice. Yeah. You know? You got to get away from the discomfort. Or get away from the comfort. Your comforts are very deadly. Ooh. Over in India, they have no child care, no AC. They have 300 people show up. They sing for an hour or two. And then they listen to another hour of preaching. They're there for 3 or 4 hours. There's no AC. There's no chairs. They're all sitting on the floor. There's no child care. The children are sitting with them, and they're well behaved. You know why? Because they don't have to have all these comforts. You don't see a kid in India playing on an iPad in the middle of church. And they're there for 3 hours. Well, the attention span. Yeah. Our attention spans are as long as a goldfish nowadays. Are you really proud of that? Like, we have the most amazing brains in the world, yet we can't focus longer than 7 minutes. Or 7 seconds. Right? And the reason why is because we've trained our kids, you know, oh, don't do that. So instead of giving them a spat in their hand and have consequences for what they did, we just redirect them, which is a whole new training that people teach in parenting, which redirection is okay to a degree, but if you only always redirect and they never have consequences for their actions, then redirection just teaches your kids how to be entertained continuously. Yeah. Oh, let's be distracted by this. Oh, let's go to be distracted. So now you're training your kids not to focus on anything. Oh, you're bored with that? Well, it's time. You know that boredom is not the worst thing that can happen to you? I think comfort's more dangerous than boredom. I think entertainment's more dangerous than boredom. Entertainment, it becomes purposeless. It becomes self-worship. Comfort becomes self-worship. People, if you live for comfort, then you don't live for anything meaningful. Anything meaningful in your life is going to be uncomfortable to get. Let me say it again. Anything meaningful in your life will be uncomfortable to get. If you live for comfort, you just have to be comfortable all the time. If you just have to be entertained all the time, then you'll have no purpose in your life. No meaningful thing that you're going after. And you'll die in the wilderness. You'll never get to your promise. God has promises for us, but sometimes we're so focused on our comforts that we can't pursue our promises. And we lose our promises. Over in Exodus, we'll read that scripture here. Exodus chapter 14, verse 10 through 14. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses, "Is it because there are no graves in Egypt you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." Wow. They just got saved from their horrible taskmasters that beat them, right? They were slaves. And now they're resenting coming into the wilderness. And rightly so. They don't understand. They just went through the whole desert. They just got set free. They went to the wilderness. Well, they should understand. They're just dumb. Yeah. You just saw all these 10 plagues. All these amazing deliverances. You think that God's really going to bring you out to the wilderness to die? So we leave our old way of life. We go to a place of wilderness called the barracks. And we start to look back at our old life and say, man, when I was at home, I had such and such. Oh, man, well, I could eat all the ice cream I wanted.
That's him.
I like it.
Sorry about that, brother.
I had freedom. I could get in a car and just drive wherever I wanted to go. Or I could use my phone or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whatever.
Man, I feel like a prisoner here. Well, you were a prisoner before. You were just blind to it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Then you had your eyes opened.
Exactly.
Then you cried out.
Yes.
Then you got rescued.
Yes.
Now you're going through a wilderness. Well, just on the other side of the wilderness is the promised land. But that wilderness is key. That wilderness teaches you how to stop relying on anything else in your life except God. And you literally put your faith and trust in God and say, you know what, Lord? You are the one who rescues my life. You're the one who fixes all these things. And I don't even know what's good for me. That's the key right there. When we realize we don't even know what's good for us, but we know what's good for, but He knows what's good for us. And so we're tempted to look back at Egypt. Don't do it. Those people died in the wilderness. Check it out. Leave us alone that we may serve, right? So, and Moses said to the people, "Fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only need to be silent." So, in this moment, they're complaining, but God already had a plan. Okay, He was already. You have to understand that this particular miracle was the final answer, was the final completion of the answer to their cry when they were in slavery. So they were in slavery, they cried out, and the Bible says, I've seen the oppression of my people, right? And so this is the final door they're walking through to completely destroy their enemy. So their enemy wasn't destroyed before. I mean, they got punished. They got the smackdown. 10 plagues, right? But they weren't defeated totally. They were defeated, but they weren't totally defeated. Did you know that Jesus has also defeated your enemy, but it's not going to be to the very last day? That's why you have to persevere to the end. You can't give up. If you give up and go back to Egypt, guess what? You'll be caught up in the Red Sea too. You always go with those. You always end up going wherever the one you're leading, whoever's leading you. You always end up wherever the one you're following goes. So we start following the devil again, and you know where he's going. Mm-hmm. You don't want to go where he goes. Mm-hmm. So God answered their prayer, but he wasn't actually answering this prayer. They were grumbling and complaining to God. God already had a plan. Literally, right before this, they were going to go around the sea, and the Bible says that God told them to turn back. So literally, God led them back to this place that entrapped them on purpose. And they thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? We're going to die right here. And then he parts the sea, right? And then they will go through, and then the Egyptians are dumb enough to go through too, and boom, like a trap, right? The Israelites were the bait. Did you know that you're the bait for the devil? Every time it looks impossible for you, God's setting up the devil for failure. Say it again. You're the bait for the devil. Every time it looks impossible for you, God's just setting the devil up for failure. He puts you in that mousetrap, set the bar back, and he's waiting. And you're thinking, I am in the middle of a mousetrap. I'm gonna die. And then that devil comes and you're like, oh no, I'm gonna get eaten. And whack! Don't jump off that mousetrap. Because if you jump off the mousetrap, the rat will just follow you and eat you. But if you'll just stay there, and you might feel little nibbles on your toes. Oh no! Whack! And your enemy's destroyed, right? Powerful stuff. It's good stuff. Exodus chapter 16, verse 2. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, Would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots, and ate bread to the full. All right, so they're upset because they're in the middle of the wilderness, and they don't have any meat.
Another one.
Right? When we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. So you see now, they just got delivered through the Red Sea after their enemy's totally destroyed now. And now they're in the wilderness complaining some more. This is Exodus chapter 16. It's two chapters later. Okay? And Exodus chapter 15 is just a song of praise. They were praising God in Exodus chapter 15. In Exodus chapter 16, now they're cursing God again. They're not seeing the big picture. They see their temporary discomfort, and that's it.
See what's in front of them.
Godly men don't look at their temporary discomforts. They look at the big picture of glory. Where God's really taking them. Where's God really taking them? Numbers 11, 1 through 10. And the people complained in the hearing of the Lord about their misfortunes. Their misfortunes. They were so blessed. And when the Lord heard it, his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some outlying parts of the camp. Whoa. Someone caught up by fire, right? Then the people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So so the name of that place was called Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burned among them. You don't read this in a lot of charismatic churches. Now the rabble that was among them. Now the rabble was among them, had a strong craving. A strong craving. And the people of Israel also wept. They wept. Like, this isn't just crying like crybabies. I guess they were really distraught because they didn't have what they wanted. Oh, that we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt that cost nothing, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our strength is dried up, and there is nothing at all but this manna to look at. You know, Jesus said in the New Testament, I am the bread from heaven, directly relating to manna. Did you know that these people didn't really understand what they were doing, but they were rejecting Jesus Christ?
What is manna?
Manna is the word manna means what is it? Okay? It's this bread stuff that came from heaven. They'd wake up in the morning and it was like dew on the grass, and they'd go pick it up. It's like little flakes, and they put it in their pots, and then they'd get enough for themselves and eat it.
Oh, so they weren't hungry.
No, they weren't hungry, but it was the same. And it actually said it tastes kind of like honey. Didn't it say it tastes like honey? Right?
Yeah, I just looked it up the other day.
Okay, good. You can correct me if I'm wrong, whoever's editing the video, okay? Just put it on there, okay? No, yeah, so it was a little sweet, but it was still like the same thing every day, right? Which is their fault anyway, because there's only an 11-day trip from Egypt to Canaan, and they messed that up by complaining. And now they were stuck there for 40 years till they all died off. But he fed them with manna the whole time, okay? But could you imagine eating manna for a whole year? You know, that's all you ate? Yeah, it might get to you a little bit. But why was God upset with them? Because they were murmuring and complaining. What the problem is not just murmuring and complaining. The problem is unbelief. When you grumble and complain, you're professing your unbelief in the system. I can't believe this. You're literally speaking doubt against what God's doing in your life. Okay? Well, you can't receive any promise from God with unbelief. Make sense? This is why grumbling and complaining is so dangerous. Because grumbling and complaining, it's not about, you're not hurting God's feelings. You're actually cursing yourself.
You want to do something to your soul?
Makes sense?
Yeah.
When you grumble and complain, you curse yourself. Only by faith can you receive the promise. Again, there's nothing wrong with telling someone who loves you, or your leader or God, and say, look, I know that there's no ill intention, right? This is what the disciples messed up on when they were in the boat. Do you even care that we're perishing? Now, they were really going through something. Yeah. But still, they were like, do you even care that we're perishing? Like, they began to question his character. When we grumble and complain, we begin to question our leadership's character. We begin to question God's character. Okay? Does that make sense? If you really want to have favor with someone, don't question their character. Even in the natural, with human beings. Let's say you worked in a secular job and your boss really wasn't all that great. Do you think that grumbling and complaining is going to help your work experience? No. The only way for your work experience to improve, even in a secular job, is to believe in your boss. If you go encourage your boss, the Bible says that a man's gift makes way before kings. What do you have of value that you can bring to your leadership so that it makes room for you? If you want, I'm talking about in the secular workforce, okay? Even here, well, it doesn't matter. It works here too. I'm saying, but let's just say people who don't really fear God, okay? Let's just go to the secular workplace. What would you do? Did you know if you brought your gift before your king, it would make room for you. It would give you room to speak. It would give you favor with that person. I'm not talking about manipulation here, where you're like a Jezebel, where you come in there and you start petting him and telling him all that he wants to hear and then talking evil about him behind his back. No, I'm talking about truly believing in that person, looking for the good in that person, speaking life into that person. You know, I have a manager that I used to work for when I was working at Hastings. I'll name her right here. I don't care if she knows. Her name is Elizabeth. And, you know, she was kind of mean. She was not very nice to me every day. And it made me so nervous. I'd be up at the register, being a register person, right? And she'd stand over my shoulder and she'd be like, Zach, you're taking too long. I'm counting my drawer and trying to get the shift started, right? And I'm like, man, I'm like shaking over here. I can't count straight. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I can't even, yeah, you're making me so nervous. I wish I had the guts at the time to say, well, you know, actually, if you weren't standing over my shoulder, I'd feel more comfortable. I wouldn't feel so nervous. But I was already so nervous anyway. I couldn't say anything to her, right? So I didn't know what I know now. But I remember, because I had already done this with another bully. I say a bully, an enemy of mine, I should say. Before, when I was in high school, I just started being nice to him. The Lord told me, He says, I started praying for this guy. This is where I learned this technique. The Bible says to love your enemies, pray to those who do evil to you, right? So this guy was my enemy, and I just started praying for him, but I wasn't praying for him the way that Jesus taught us. I was praying for him that, Lord, change him. You know what I mean? I was like, that's what I was praying, right? And what happened was, the Lord did not change him. The Lord changed me. And I started loving this guy. And I said, the Lord really put it in my heart. My last year in high school, I've been enemies for 3 years. Last year in high school, the Lord said, you need to start complimenting him. So I was like, golly, I don't have anything nice to say about this guy, you know? But I knew I couldn't lie either. So what it forced me to do was look for good things, because I knew I had nothing good to say to him. I thought to myself, I'm going to look for the good things. And so so what it forced me to do was stop looking at all the bad stuff. I started seeing good things. And the moment I saw one good thing, even if it wasn't even like directly from his heart, right? So he bought this new trombone. Brand new, spanking, you know, nice, custom-made trombone. He probably spent $4,000 on this sucker. And so when I saw it, I said, hey, I hear you got a new trombone. Right? So what am I doing? I'm connecting with him on something that he cares about. Right?
He probably said, why is he...
He was probably a little bit, he was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So we went back to look at his trombone. I said, man, that is a beautiful trombone. Now, was I complimenting him directly? No. But I was looking for something good about him, even something that he cared about, and I was trying to speak life and speak kindness, right? I said, let me hear you play on it. I really didn't think he sounded very good. So when he played on the trombone, he sounded better. I said, hey, man, that trombone really does make you sound better. And I wasn't lying. I still didn't like the way he sounded, but it was, but he did sound better. And I thought, I'm just going to look for I'm going to squeeze the good out of this guy. You know what I mean? Every good thing, I'm not going to lie, but I'm going to squeeze the good. And so what happened was, things started changing in our relationship, man. Like, every day I'd say, hey, man, how you doing, Josh? How you doing? I would be nice to him and just be kind to him. Dude, the next thing you know, there's more good things to see. Because he's not a jerk to me anymore. Why? You know why people can't be a jerk to someone whenever they're nice to them?
Why?
Because people they don't have it. They don't have anyone who loves them. Most people in the world don't have anyone who cares about them. And so when you're the only one that loves them, they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to lose you.
Right.
My mind was open because I started talking to this guy and realizing he had a really estranged relationship. He was adopted. He was resentful towards his mother and father, you know. At the time, I don't know if he is anymore. But him and his mother didn't. He felt like his mother hated him. Whatever lies he believed. It might have been true, might not have been true. It didn't matter. He believed it. So I remember, I just keep on being nice to him. Next thing you know, at the end of the year, he's like, Zach, I'm having a graduation party. You better come or I'm going to be mad.
Yeah.
I was like, cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm going.
Right.
You know? So I learned this thing that if I would just be kind to someone, and you can turn your enemies into your friends.
That's a good one.
So then, with this lady, I did the same thing. I thought, you know what? I'm going to try the same thing I did with Josh. So what I did was, and you know what's funny is, whenever you do it once, it's easier to do it the second time. Because you know what's going to happen. And so I actually could get excited about something that I hadn't seen yet, knowing it was coming. So I walked in the door. I remember the very next day, I said, all right, I'm going to do it starting today. So before she could say anything negative to me, I'd open up that, I would look and see who's working. And if Elizabeth was working, I'd prepare myself before I walked through that door. Okay? And I'd open up that door, and as soon as I opened up that door, I'd see Elizabeth. I'd say, hi, Elizabeth, it's so awesome to see you. And I'd go and clock in. Well, you can't have someone tell you it's awesome to see you, and then you have a bad day.
There's something bad to say about
So
it.
I cut that off, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as I got in, boom, I changed the environment. Dude, I'll tell you what. We just started, our relationship just grew. She started, thank you. She just really started to grow. And so, anyway, I'm telling you this story because we often do that. What would you do in your work environment if the person that you were working for was horrible to you, you know? If you just are nice and you give a gift, a kind word, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, if someone tongue lashes you, then that means they are deprived of good words in their life.
Ooh.
They have nothing to give. They're only giving you what they have. So I remember one day, I'd built so much relationship with this woman by just showing her kindness. One day she was irritable, and she was like, Zach, just put the movies away. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She was being real short with me, and I was just smiling. And I picked up all those movies, and I looked at her, and I said, Elizabeth, I'll do that. And you know what? You're going to go to lunch? Do me a favor. When you come back in a better mood. And she started laughing, dude. She just bust up laughing. And the reason why was because I'd already poured so much kindness into her that she didn't feel like I was being rude.
Yeah.
She felt like I was calling her on her junk. You know, like,
Yeah,
golly, you're right. I am being a butthole.
Yeah,
you know? And all you are is ever nice to me. You know what I mean? And so, it was the coolest thing to hear her laugh. Everybody else in the store, all the other employees, when I said that, just come back in a better mood. All the other employees, I looked at them, they're like this. They couldn't believe I said that to her. But it really, it's funny because I had some really deep conversations with her, ended up talking about God with her. It opened up so many doors. Your gifts will make room before kings. Okay? To this day, if she sees me across the parking lot at Walmart, she'll come all the way across the parking lot to come see me and give me a hug. Zach, how are you doing? How are the kids? I don't even have to say hi to her. She comes to me. Why? Because she knows, because there's just she never had that, you know what I mean? So anyway, I tell that story about managers because I want to talk about questioning the leadership and their motives. And so if we'll if we'll bring our gifts before kings, and then it'll make room for us. It'll create favor. The people that are our leaders, they will show us favor. There is a way to do things, and again, we mentioned too that we don't want to be manipulative. We're not talking about petting the leader and flattering them. It's not the same thing. We're not flattering. We are genuinely trying to show appreciation, genuinely trying to love that person, genuinely trying to inspire that person, okay? Because if you do that, you notice in the story I told you that I was able to finally confront her, and she laughed, but she also knew I was right too. That's why she laughed. You know, she didn't get mad at me. But when I confronted her about, you know, I'll come back in a better mood, you know, that was something that was dampening morale in the whole team, you know? And so you can't sit here in your life and blame your leadership for how horrible things are. I'm not saying that leadership shouldn't take responsibility. What I'm saying is, if you really do have a leader that has poor motives, then if you see that, then there's something about you that is shepherd. It's like a shepherd. And you have two choices. To either dog them, you know what I mean? Talk about them behind their back, cause division, or actually let your gift go before you, make room, get them to show you some favor, and then once you have that, you've earned that right to speak into their life, tell them something that might be difficult for them to hear. But because you've earned their respect through your honor. If you honor your leaders, you'll earn their respect. And so when it's time to say something that could be life-changing for the team or life-changing for the organization, then they're going to be much more willing to listen to you. Does that make sense? That's what I was kind of getting at. So, grumbling and complaining causes division. It causes division. So you have to ask yourself, do I really want to divide everything that's happening here, or do I want to bring unity? This is what's happening in our country. Our whole country is in division because people keep complaining. Nobody loves anybody. Make sense? If we would honor one another, we could actually have conflict. So, we're gonna make sense.
Yeah.
If we honored one another, we could have healthy conflict, which is what I want to talk about next. So, anyway, we'll close out this session and then we'll pick up with the next session. But to set up the next one, the truth is, we have to have, if you want to have healthy relationships, if you want to have a healthy team, you have to have healthy conflict. Because if everybody keeps on harboring their bitterness inside of them, if you have somebody on your team that's grumbling and complaining, it's evident that there's bitterness, which means that there's something that they're harboring that they're not willing to have the courage yet to really talk about. You see what I'm saying? To really bring it to the light. And if you don't address those situations, then it just causes a rift. It causes division. Does that make sense? Or you might lose somebody that really could have been saved if you had just taken the time to listen. Make sense? But sometimes people don't have the courage to bring it up. So you can't blame one or the other. If you notice it, then you say, hey, come on, let's talk. But also the person who is harboring the bitterness needs to also have the courage to bring it up too. Makes sense? So anyway, so we'll talk about that in the next session. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this teaching blessed you and inspired you and helped you out a little bit. Man, if it was a blessing for you, please share the video, like it, leave a comment if you have questions. I'll try to answer these questions and whatnot. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Go to our Facebook page and make sure you've already liked the page. Hover your mouse over following and make sure see first is checked. If there's a check mark there, then you know that you'll be seeing our videos in your news feed. Also, if you're wanting to support our ministry and help fund missions work and help support drug and alcohol recovery, please go to our website, boldasalignministries.com or www.balmzs.com, and you'll see here there's a donate button. You just hit this donate button right there. It'll give you an opportunity to sow into the ministry. Right there, you can see Bold as a Lion Ministries. You can give $30 a month, $50 a month, or $100 a month, or just a one-time gift if you want. Also, you can go to our website, 3rcandles.com. Remember, all the candles are handmade by our students in recovery, and so you can select from our wide range of products. I mean, we just have tons of candles you can see right there. And also, be sure to sign up for the VIP offers. We can get 25% off your next purchase. You'll be able to receive offers we have. We're also going to be doing some free test strips for fragrances as well. So make sure that you sign up right here and all that good stuff. So have a good day.